Hey guys, welcome back to Braddock's Garage. If it's your first time here, thanks for stopping in. I hope you like it. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. I hope you like this video as well. So you want to rebuild your leaf springs. Why on earth would you want to do that? You could go out and buy a brand new set for under $500, individual springs for around $160. So why would you want to rebuild your originals? Well, if you're going for originality, then really that's the only way to do it. Most of these have their part numbers stamped right on them, as you see right here. This set is the set that came out of my '68 Mustang. They have a part number of C7ZA-5556-Y. Throughout the lifespan of the early Mustangs, 64 through, I'll say 69, I believe it is, Mustangs used almost the same exact springs. There were some 5-leaf variants. Most of them were 4s like you see right here. But they had different spring rates ranging from 610 pounds up to, I think it was 650 pounds. This set right here specifically, which is the Dash Ys, was, I believe, 625-ish pounds. So, anywho, I'm a cheapskate and don't want to buy a new set. So I'm going to rebuild these originals. And like I've said throughout many of my other videos, I'm not doing a concourse build, but there is something to be said for original parts being reused. So these springs, at first glance, appear to be okay. I plan on doing a Shelby drop in the front eventually, so if these are a little worn, that extra sag might not be a bad thing. So anyway, I'm going to reuse them, I'm going to rebuild them, and you'll see that whole process right now. So like I said, for those who want to rebuild their original springs, cost is obviously a huge factor. Like I said, you could buy a complete set for around 500 bucks. Or you can rebuild your original springs using the parts I've got laid out here for much less, probably half of what you would spend on a new set. So if that's something you're trying to pinch pennies on, then it's perfectly acceptable. Unless your springs are heavily worn, almost flat. I've seen it on Jeeps, or even cracked leaves. Then you'll probably want to go ahead and just cough it up for a new set. There's no real fixing that, unless you buy a new leaf, individual leaf. And I'm not even sure where you can do that. But anyway, let's take a look at the parts I've got laid out here. All right, here's everything I'm going to use for the rebuild. You can save some money on not buying parts like the U-bolts or the main eye bolts. Even your shackles, you don't have to buy that if yours is in good shape. Maybe you just need to get new bushings and you'd be okay with the rear shackles. Maybe all you need are the main eye bushings. You know, just depends on your need. I'm going balls out here, so I bought everything I need, and all this came from Kentucky Mustang. And altogether, this was a little over 200 bucks. So, you know, like I was talking to you before, you know, do you just buy the parts and rebuild it, or do you buy a whole new spring? It's up to you. I'm rebuilding. So anyway, let's start at the top here. These, kind of hard to see, but these are the anti-squeak pads that go in between the leaves. This one bag is enough to do an entire set of leaf springs, well, 2 springs. I bought new U-bolts. These I won't be using anytime soon because the rear end's not going in the car. But I do have them, and they'll be ready when the rear end is going in. I've got the center bolts. In the past, I have just gone to Lowe's and bought these, but, you know, I'm trying to be correct, I guess. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a good term. You know, when I used to rebuild leaf springs for Jeeps, I would just use the bolts from Lowe's. Nothing wrong with them, just as strong as stock would be, and they worked. So, but in this case, I'm going with correct factory style hardware. I've got the spring clamp pack. These are the things that sort of fold around the springs and then lock into place. They come with the rubber isolators in them already, so you don't have to worry about that. And this will do 2 springs. New eye bolts. Like I said, you don't need these if yours are in good shape. I don't know where mine are, so yeah, I just bought a new set. And mine were probably rusty anyway. Actually, you know what? I do remember I had cut one side out with a Sawzall, and then the other side I just gave up on because I beat it with a hammer and it would not come out. Only to come back a week later, and for some odd reason, it just tapped right out. Don't ask me why. Shackles, pretty self-explanatory. New shackles, you know, new bushings. May as well, right? Main eye bushings. In my last video, you just saw me press these out. If you really didn't understand that, what I was doing was taking the air hammer with the pointed bit and pushing this edge of that metal sleeve over into the rubber part of the bushing. So I could set my socket down onto the folded part of the metal to push it out. Because if you don't, your socket will just be sitting on the rubber itself and not really doing anything. So anyway, that was just a little bit more of an explanation if you didn't pick up on that in my last video. But yeah, so new eye leaf bushings. And this is everything you really need, minus paint and some grease and some elbow grease. Yeah, this is all you need to rebuild your springs. So now we just need to disassemble what we've got. Oh, fun. All right, so like I said, you saw me pull out the main eye, or push out the main eye on the front of the spring. Now we've just got our little bushings right here that we need to pop out of the rear eye. And then all you need to do with that is, you know, screwdriver or little pry bar like this, and just get in there. Maybe tighten your mice down a little bit. Like that. Now my springs are a matching set with a date code of G18B. I think that's the date code. I don't know quite how you decipher that, but maybe somebody can comment down below. Pretty sure it's a date code. There we go. There you go. That's the rear bushings removed. All right, now let's move on to the main body of the spring. All right, so we've got our spring set up right here, and I've got 3 of these clamps that go around the spring. 2 of those clamps are going to go on the front of the spring, forward of the centering pin. And then 1 will be between the bottom and second leaf behind the centering pin, which is right here, which is all rusty. Now, one of 2 ways you can get those off. You can pry up the tabs, which will ultimately break on you before you even get them up, and pry them off that way, or you just cut them right off. I'm gonna try to pry one up, see what happens, and then I'll probably just resort to cutting the rest of them off. So let's get into that. And it should be noted that before we do any work on these, we should go ahead and clamp these down, especially before we take the centering pin out. The last thing you want is leaves exploding in your face. All right, as you can see from the time lapse, we've got all of our straps removed along with the rubber isolators on them. I mean, you can see this is original stuff. It's dry, brittle, and cracked. So, not that this really did much or will affect ride performance any, but I mean, it does serve a purpose, and I think it's outlived its life expectancy here. So next what we're going to do is work on getting the centering pin out. This is where the clamps really come in handy, because if you don't, sometimes these nuts or bolts are rusted, and you go to pop that off with an impact and it just breaks, and this whole pack will sort of shoot off, and you don't want that. So anyway, let's work on that next, and we'll just about have this thing apart. All right, so first I'm gonna give this a little bit of lube. Not that it really matters, because I'm guessing this stud's just gonna break right off, but you know, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. That is a 1/2-inch drive, or 1/2-inch nut on that stud. So we'll use the impact and break it off. And like I said, I'm sure that's what's going to happen. But we've got our clamps in place. They are tight. So, you know, shouldn't die today. I'll be damned. It's actually spinning off, I think. Nope, I take that back. It's just spinning the stud on the other side. So in this instance, you're going to have to hold that down. So we need a good pair of vice grips. All right, let's see if that helps. And it does. I can see the spring separating. Really shocked this bolt, the stud hasn't broken off yet. There we go. I'll be damned. There you go, you can see that. Wait, where are you? There you are. So, that's not usable anymore. Well, it might be if you rethread it, but I doubt it. Now comes the fun part. Well, undoing these clamps and relieving tension on this spring. Nice and slow. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. There we go, that one's good. Here we go. And friends, it is just that easy. Not too bad. I'll probably end up cleaning each one of these leaves with a cheek poker before I put them into the rust dissolver bath. So you can see the original squeak pads. Those are pretty much shot. A little bit of flaky rust where they were all sitting on each other, but I don't see any cracks, which is an important thing to look for. Sometimes you can't see the cracks that are on the sandwich leaves, and usually there's either before or after the pin. So these look okay. These look okay. This Mustang was originally a 289 car, so it's not like it was putting out a lot of torque. So these springs probably have more fatigue from just sitting since the late 70s, early 80s, more than it ever had while it was on the road. But all right, so now I'll take the cheek poker to them and clean some of that scaly rust off, and then they will be put into a bath of evaporust. So I'll probably show you the finished, well, not the finished product, but what it looks like after I take the cheek poker to them. You don't even need to see me do that. You know, anyone who's doing this type of work has seen it 100 times already. So anyway, we'll or you'll see the finished product here in just about a second. All right, so here we go. This is the first cleaning. I just hit this with a surface conditioning tool, got all the scale off, and came out pretty nice. Even hit the inside of the eyes right there with a wire brush. So these are gonna spend the next week probably in a tub of evaporust. So I'll pull them out every other day, probably just to give them another cleaning, and by the end of that week they should look not brand new, but a whole heck of a lot better. So into the bath they go. All right, well, I didn't have enough, so I'll have to go to the store and get some more. But that was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably a quarter. That was 6 1/4 jugs. And I need at least a few more, 3 more maybe. But yeah, a lot of that was used. That's why it's all brown. Normally it's that green color. Although lately I've been getting evaporust that's clear, so I don't know what's about that. But anyway, so I need a few more jugs, but this is how these leaves are going to sit for the next, week or so. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to take them out every 2 days or so and give them another brushing with a wire brush and dunk them back in. So now we wait. So while I'm waiting for the leaf spring to soak in the evaporust bath, I'm going to go ahead and tackle disassembly of the other leaf spring so I can get that ready for the bath when this one's done. All right, here's one of the leaves, the lower leaves that had been sitting in evaporust for 5 days. You can see how nice it came out. A little bit pitted, but still serviceable. And the others are almost ready to come out. These smaller ones tend to go a little bit quicker. But yeah, so then I'll run them under a wire wheel and they'll be all nice and shiny like this. All right, guys, here you go. So this has been 6 days in evaporust. And I pulled them out and washed them off with some water and took a red Scotch-Brite pad over them. So now they are drying. Well, they should be done drying, but came out quite nice. So while I'm waiting on those, I went ahead and test painted this piece right here, this bottom leaf. And I did that with Duplicolor, what is it called? Cast. I got it. There it is, right there. Duplicolor engine enamel with ceramic. And it is cast coat iron. So I think it turned out pretty well. That's the color we'll use. And I'll probably put a satin clear over top of it to protect them. So that was my test piece. Looks good. That one goes back over here. You can kind of see the difference. Yeah, it's a little different. I think it'll work out nice. All right, so you saw me sanding these down. They're nice and smooth now. Got a little bit of bite to them. And what I did off camera that you didn't see was I also took my Durablock here and went on the inside of the eyelets just to get all the crud that was on there out. So, and I did that on all 4 corners. So now all we need to do is take our prep, clean all these off, and then we'll put a coat of SEM self-etching primer on there. So that's next. All right, here they are. They're all painted up. You saw me on the time lapse do that. I think anyway. But yeah, cleaned them up, hit them with the SEM self-etching primer, and then hit them again with Duplicolor cast iron color. So they turned out pretty well. That one right there, you see, was a different can. It came out a little bit darker than the others, but they look good. So next step now is going to be probably assembling them, but that's going to have to be for tomorrow because I'm pretty tired. Okay, so you've seen me disassemble the leaf springs. You've seen me clean them in the evaporust and manually stripping them. And you've seen me paint them. So now comes the fun part of installing the new pieces and putting them back together. It's pretty simple, won't take that long, and then we'll call this project done. At least the leaf springs anyway.
right, so one thing I like to do when I assemble my leaf springs, I like to put a light coat of grease in between each and every leaf. It will help with the squeaking. I mean, you're gonna have the pads in there anyway, but this will just give you that extra little quietness that you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Doesn't take much, just a little dab on your finger. Smear it on all the leaves. I like to put some right here where they all meet in the middle, and then on the ends. This is where you get most of your movement at, is on the ends anyway. So just a little right there goes a long way. You don't have to do this. This is just my personal preference. A little bit of grease right here in the pockets for the anti-squeak pads. This will also help hold them in while I'm assembling it. Just put them on the pad itself and stick it right in there. Use the grease, it is your friend. I'm going to take my centering pin right here with nub facing up, slide it through, and stack your corresponding leaf. And these are so thin you can squeeze it by hand and install your nut. Like that. And just tighten it on down. So now we can put our straps on. And there's two different sizes of straps. You've got a short one and you've got a long one. You can see the difference there. So the long ones obviously go over the thicker part of the leaves and the short one on the very end. This is just, you might have to muscle these a little bit. I mean, it's decently thick metal, and you gotta bend them over. Now you can use your, hopefully you took pictures for reference as to where these can go, but being that this was an original set, it's actually got sort of these witness marks already in it, you know, where it's been riding on the spring for years. So it's easy to see. So I've got one here, one right here where this one is, and then one down here on this side. I could see those even before I disassembled this thing. So I know where they go. But just in case, because I do forget, I also took pictures of it. All right, so these, I got a clamp just in case I need it, but these are a pain in the butt. So I'm gonna take my clamp, hold it in place, as tight as you can get it. And you're just gonna fold the straps over. clamp right here is just keeping the springs in alignment, because when you are pounding this strap over, it's wanting to shift the leaves that way. And that's it. Now I'm going to do the rest of them. All right, so there you go. That's all the straps on this one spring. So now we're gonna move on to installing the bushings in the rear eye. This is the kit I got here. I showed you this earlier. This is Daniel Carpenter shackle kit. These are not factory correct. The finish, I believe, is incorrect. Plus, they both disassemble from the side like that, whereas one is supposed to have, I guess, a fixed end and then a loose end. For the side that's got zero clearance, essentially, which I believe is the back driver's side. So once again, some grease. Just put it on the bushing. And slide it in. For years of squeak-free service. So there we go. We put a little bit of grease on the shaft. No funny jokes. We all got a dirty mind, but you don't have to say that here. Or say what you're thinking. All right. That's as far as I'm going to go with tightening those up, but you can see there it is, rear shackle. So this spring would be ready to install. I'm not doing that like with every other little side project I've done because the car's not ready. So, you know, sue me. These little side quests, you know, with the detail work is what I like to do. I'll get back on the body work and then we'll throw these things in hopefully have a rolling chassis sometime soon, maybe by the end of the year. I don't know. So, but check this out. See that white mark right there? So I found the original factory stripe on the leaf spring when it was in its evaporust bath, and figured let's put it back on. Like I said, it's the details that I like, so that's what I did. I thought about putting a red stripe on there, and if you know what the red stripes went on, then you know what that meant, what that means. But I didn't. I kept original to the car itself, not to what I'm gonna make it look like. So anyway, there's a white stripe. I did it to both springs. It came out pretty good. I used a brush and some white Rust-Oleum. I like it. And then I clear coated the whole thing, which I believe I got footage of. If I didn't, shame on me. But so anyway, I'll go ahead and knock out the second spring and this project will be done. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and leave a like, drop a comment if you want, and you know, stick around and we'll have more projects to do. I don't know what you guys want to see, if anything, but I'll try to keep some content flowing as best as I can. I'm pretty busy, so it's hard for me to get enough time to come out here and film a video for you guys. But you know, let me know if you like the content. And the best way you can do that is just drop a like and subscribe too. Doesn't cost anything. It's free. You know, just do it, like Nike says. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.